Our model railway is created from scratch until we have our dream railroad system in just a few episodes. I turned the whole system 180 degrees so you can see it from the other side in this episode. In the last episode, we took care of some electronic features together with an M84 decoder. That's a switch decoder that can be used to turn lights on and off. Using this, we have installed this chicken run over here. When I turn it on, the chicken will start running around like crazy and start to peck for grains. We also installed a woman that is taking selfies over there. And she is taking the selfies every time the ICE passes her. We did that using a circuit track which recognizes when a train drives over it. And in that moment, the woman will take a selfie. And when the train disappears in the tunnel, she will stop taking selfies. We installed that in the last episode, since we still had enough room to lay out wires. But now, the next task is the mountain. We will start to model a little bit. I also built the next house, the butcher's shop. It will be standing about here. I placed it provisionally on these paint buckets. And I used this honeycomb boards by Bush, which I like very much. They come with these base plates. They can easily be attached to the boards. I also used these base plates for another purpose as well. I used them for the dimming here on the side. I built a frame with it. I cut this out using a crafting knife. After that, I glued these honeycomb boards base plates to the bottom. Well, not glued, but pinned. And they are easy to separate again. So if I don't like it, I can take it apart again. I pinned these base plates in a way that I only have this half board. This half board fits perfectly. And they can be torn apart easily by hand. I could use that now to fix further boards in a 90 degrees angle, or if I want to attach another board. Here at the side, for example. That way you can give the whole system more stability. I saw complete railroad systems that were built out of this material. These honeycomb boards. You can do that. They are very stable. Only disadvantage is the carton and moisture do not go well together. If you have a moist basement, I would rather use wood. So for this kind of landscape attachment parts, this is a fine solution and you won't have any problems with stability. Back there will be all the electronics. That's where I have my ring circuit. That leads all the way around with several power feeds for the track current and also for the lighting current that is needed for the interior lighting. And to be able to reach that, I drilled a hole in this board. And the hole is big enough that I can reach through with my whole arm. I have to be able to reach in deep into the system. That's why this hole is just big enough for my arm to fit through, but small enough that it won't impair stability. It's cut out very roughly. It's a bit crooked here. You can do that using a ruler, but we were in a bit of a hurry since I wanted to prepare some things for today's episode. I also finished the tunnel portals made out of rigged foam. I glued them together. This one is not, since I am not completely satisfied with this one. I still want to change something about this one. Maybe I want a different interior wall. I'm still deciding. But I painted them already, you can see that. Usually, you do the painting at the end when everything is covered with a certain mesh. But that's an area which will be hard to reach later on. And I tested different kinds of paint. Here I have some sort of structure paste by Noch. That are these small paint buckets here. You can buy that from other manufacturers as well. Here's one by Heki, for example. That's a very good paint as well. With this, I started to create a fluor structure in the interior tunnel walls. Now this color is either too yellowish or too brown. I want that to look dirty and dark in here. I still have some testing to do, and here I have a different paint. That's what I would like to use. It is this sort of brown again. I will use that and start to speckle. The drier it gets, the better it is. That will be perfect for the farm later on. I will apply that onto the plaster, speckling like this. And the same thing can be done here as well. A black paint would also be good, especially on the interior wall of the tunnel. I could also use this concrete paint. I forgot to shake it. Best to close the lid before you shake it. Shake it, baby, shake it. So I guess dark paint would work for this tunnel. Right now, you have the chance to try out different colors and experiment a little bit with what you can use for which purpose. You can mix the colors too. Right here, that's too bright. So I will add some more brown color and mix that. That's like art class all over again, back in school. Now that's starting to look good. A bit brighter, but dirty looking. The color almost looks like the color of the sea tracks, so that's starting to look very realistic. By speckling the brush like this, I can create that structure. My tracks are screwed tight already. I have already fixed the tracks at important point in this tunnel using my Märklin track screws. I don't want them to move anymore since I can't reach them in the tunnel anymore. I don't want to lift the whole system later when I continue crafting and realize that something just fell off. And when the ICE drives over them with full speed, the tracks can move about 2 or 3 millimeters per drive. That sums up to 1 centimeter after 10 laps. It can easily be 2 centimeters as well, and we don't want that to happen. So best to screw that tight. Now I reseal the paint. Now we start with the next project I will show you on this piece right here. I built this netting here, and this netting will be my mountain in the future. I guess you can see the structure a little bit already, even if there is no surface on it so far. That are these kinds of sticks. Let me show them to you. You can easily cut them with a crafting knife. Just take a long one and then you cut them to size. If you take a long one, you can build high fast, but then the mountain might look too much of a box. That's boring. That's why I cut different lengths and kept them as short as possible. I only have a very small and short distance. So about this size. Then I scratched it lightly with the crafting knife. I'll create a flat surface, then I can demonstrate it to you. That's the size I need. And now I roll it with the knife. And I use only light pressure. This surface is not ideal. Better use a hardwood table here at the back. Press and roll, that's all you have to do. Now we create a little notch and now we can break it apart. So no problem at all. Now I can insert this here. That's a 5-way connector. And I can connect braces to it, which are going in all directions. I could do it like this, but that looks too much like a box again. Let's show it in the other camera. Okay, we can't see it. Let's continue here. That's too straight, so I take different lengths, this one for example, and connect it with this one. That way I can create this wonderful rock formation. That would be my mountaintop. I could connect it now and use such a 5-way connector again. And then I can connect further pieces to it. That's what I will do now. That's still straight, so I could have one going in this direction and another one going in that direction there. That way I connect that perfectly. Let's see what size I would need. That one would fit nicely and stabilize that. I will halve that length because the smaller the distances, the nicer the mountain profile will be. If you use longer sticks, you can build faster and finish fast, but it is also boring. We want to look it nice. So I took this length. That would be enough here at the side. But I will cut it in the middle and show you what I mean. That's the better idea. Notch it again and let's see if that was enough. Yes, that worked. Now one will be connected down here. The other one will be connected to the opposite side. But since I cut this piece, I created a new profile because I can connect 2 more pieces now and I get a transition for a third one. I could place that here to reach over there. That's diagonally, but that doesn't really make sense because I said the more parts, the better. I would shorten that here. We will finish this now so that you see how this is done. And then you can do it yourself at home. Everything you need to rebuild the things we talked about can be found in the links under this video. Just click them on and then you can look around the manufacturer's homepages or at the Märklin shop. You can find everything you need there. I'm looking for more connectors. Let me check if I have more. We already used a lot of them. Let's do that later. We continue here with this connection. Let's see if that fits. I have different lengths. I just shortened one. That's a part that's a lot of fun. Creating that mountain in your head or on a piece of paper is nothing compared to actually working with these materials. For when the mountain is created, that's the art. You can look forward to this part when you start creating the scaffold. Alright, we can fix this one here. Let's see if that works. Looking good, looks stable. Later on, we will cover this with landscaping crap. Then you can attach it very nicely. I will continue that on my own since there is more that I still want to show you. I have this bucket of glue here that's actually used to glue grass, but I can use this glue on my interior tunnel walls. Best to use a clean brush. This one is clean enough. Now I pick some up with the brush. That's white glue. It has a white or transparent color when it dries up. And now I will apply this white glue all over here. The reason I'm doing this is that I want to sprinkle material on it. For example, ballast or sand. I can still reach this area, but later it becomes more difficult and then it won't look realistic anymore. That are the details that you have to pay attention to if you want a maximum of realism. And that's what the great systems separate from plain systems. We put a lot more effort in this system. It takes quite some time, but the result will look great. And doing this is also a lot of fun. And since I can reach everything here, I can still do a lot of work within this tunnel. So I do this with any area that will be hard to reach at the end. Okay, I applied glue everywhere. There is still a hole that doesn't look nice. Well, take a piece of paper or maybe this wrapping material. Before we have to throw that away, we can use it to seal this. I will glue this paper on right here and then I can sprinkle on my ballast. I didn't buy this at the hardware store. I took it out of the trash can. As I said before, we don't have trash, we only have building material. Now I cut it to size. Let's see where my materials are. Here they are. So I thought about material you might find on a mountain. Usually there is a lot of rubble, so I thought I could use these little stones. Here we have quartz rocks by the manufacturer Bush. I will sprinkle them on here. I'll test and see first back there what that looks like. That looks alright. I will not use too many of them, just a few that are lying around by the tunnel. I can still reach this area, that's what I was talking about. It is already hard to reach now, later on it will be impossible. I'm spreading them out all over, a little bit more here. I can use a spoon to spread them later. It is very important that you don't get any glue on the tracks, and of course that there are no rocks on the tracks. We let that dry now and this looks much better already. It is still too bright, but you can probably imagine what I have planned when the glue is dry. I will paint over there and darken the rocks a little. I will speckle again with a dry brush. Any rocks that are not glued tight will be sucked up later. I just suck them up with a vacuum cleaner. Here I can apply some more rocks. That amount is good. This seal here is not tight. Some rocks fell through. I have to hold this paper a little bit longer. Okay, so far the rocks are only glued to the board at the bottom. So now I will use ballast glue. I don't have it here, I have to get it from the shelf. Alright, let's just briefly repeat what we did in this episode. We applied glue to the routes at the tunnel and we screwed tight the tracks. Always seal the glue container tight, they dry out fast. Alright, so I screwed the tracks in place and I did some crafting at all those places that I can still reach, mostly in the tunnel before I start the coating. So we did some gluing and we sprinkled ballast on top. We started with some quartz sand and here comes my ballast glue. And before I use that, I will apply this here. that's brown sand. I sprinkled that on top as well. Here at the tunnel, that's probably overkill, since you might not be able to see that in the end. I'm using this as practice area where I can try out and nobody will see it. That's a lot of sand I used there. You can also use a tablespoon or a teaspoon. That makes it easier to dose that. This is a nasty place here. The sand is actually more suitable for a water body. Looks like a sandbank. Let's consider that an experiment. What I can really recommend is the ballast for the C-tracks from Bosch. That looks just like the ballast at the site. I will buy some of that. We can use that for the train station and the tracks all around to make it look realistic. We can use this C-track ballast for that. Let me have a peek through the tunnel. That's good, we can leave it that way. Next step, we use this, that's ballast glue. This one is from Heki, but you can also buy it from Noch, Buscher or even Faller. I'll mix that now. You can make it yourself. You can combine glue and detergent in a certain ratio. To make that, I tried that before, but the result was never as good as this. But you can try that. I just drip this over here. There is a dropper at the front. So now the rocks are glued to the surface. I also apply glue to the other side. Not too much, just a little bit. Just a few drops. That will dry overnight. The glue will be absorbed by this material. Do not glue the tracks. Be careful with them. Otherwise, you might have to replace them, and we don't want that. What we will do the next time, you can see it a little bit over there. I have some here in the back. That's foliage. That's what you can use for the trees. And that works just fine. If you add some of it on the top, just a bit at the side inside the tunnel. Hardly anything usually grows, but here at the side it looks perfect. You can do that at the end. Let me show you on the other side. You can attach that here on the top, like that. We will do that later. This piece of grass will be glued here. That's a way to landscape. And that's also very fun. It takes some time, but that's the fine art of modeling if you want to do that realistically. What else do we need? We applied glue, ballast, and we added a little bit of foliage, and we also used structure paste at places that will be hard to reach later on. You don't have to do that inside the complete tunnel. Just look inside and model the interior walls. What I did so far is not perfect, but that's the way to go. Next step we did was building this netting. And I have to do this over the whole system. Something like this will be built over here as well. You cannot see that behind the train station, but there is a little bit there already. At the front of this station area, I covered the netting with landscaping crap. That's this kind of material. We pull this over this netting with the hot glue gun. And that's where we will put our plaster mix or our assembly filler mixture. That way we can create our mountain. That will take some time and I will continue that without you. And then it's time to work with the plaster. You can also buy special filler. That's a sort of rock filler. What you can also buy a mold, I will show you in one of the next episodes. Using that, you can model rock massive with plaster. Another possibility is this. That's a plastic film. This one is from Heki. You can use that as intermediate elements. For example, right here between those two tunnels. You can work that into the plaster. I could create a steep rock here behind this house. I can work that film into the outer walls. So that works well. Or maybe I want to have a rock edge here at the side. Then I could work that in right at the beginning. I will leave that right here now. You can also use rocks made out of hard foam. You can place them on the outside and add some plaster to it. I will show you in one of the next episodes as well how to do that. So that's a great material that you can buy. And all of it can be combined with plaster. So that's going to be a lot of fun. What else do we have? Of course, while the plaster dries, we have some free time. I usually use that time to age the buildings or weather the buildings. For that, I use something like this. That's patination powder. You can use this to let buildings or trains age faster. It contains different colors. Here we have concrete, ash, sand, dust, rust, brick, moss, and soot. Using this little brush here, we can speckle our houses with this color. Then they won't look new. Instead, they will get this nice touch. If we want, we could also do that with our ICE. Usually, they are not that clean. There must be some dirt at the bottom, since it drove through the rains and the forests many times. So there's already a lot of dirt attached to it. To make it look better, we let that age a bit. Let me check if I have a model somewhere where I did that already. Look at this wagon. I aged quite a bit. I used paints and rust powder. Now this looks much better on our railroad system. That's also a topic for one of our next episodes. Alright, I'll continue a little bit on my own, sprinkle some ballast and play with the paint, and most importantly, I have to finish the netting, since I want to start working with the plaster in one of the next episodes. Take care and see you next time. Goodbye.